What happens when one of the most recognizable families in American politics suddenly becomes less visible? While Donald Trump continues to dominate headlines, two members of his family, Melania Trump and Barron Trump, have increasingly stayed out of the public eye. Is this a carefully planned strategy, a personal decision, or simply the result of intense public scrutiny? Today, we're separating verified facts from online speculation to understand what's really happening. Over the past several months, social media has been flooded with dramatic claims suggesting that Melania Trump has been sidelined or that Barron Trump is becoming more involved in political conversations. Some posts describe these developments as karma. Others claim there's growing distance within the Trump family, but how much of that is actually supported by evidence? In this video, we'll look at what is publicly known, what remains speculation, and why Melania and Barron continue to attract so much attention despite making relatively few public appearances. Rather than relying on rumors, we'll focus on confirmed events, public reporting, and the broader political context, because sometimes what isn't seen can become just as newsworthy as what is. Since Donald Trump's return to the White House, public attention has remained focused almost entirely on his presidency. Cabinet announcements, policy decisions, international meetings, campaign-style events, these stories dominate the news cycle every day. Yet, one familiar face has appeared far less often than many Americans expected: Melania Trump. Unlike previous First Ladies who frequently maintained active public schedules, Melania has continued to take a more selective approach to public appearances. That choice has sparked endless debate. Supporters argue she has always valued privacy and independence. Critics question whether her reduced visibility reflects broader political or personal dynamics. The reality is that Melania herself has rarely offered detailed public explanations, leaving space for speculation to grow. For years, Barron Trump remained largely outside the political spotlight. Unlike several of his older siblings, he rarely gave interviews, avoided campaign speeches, and maintained a relatively private life while growing up. That wasn't unusual. Historically, many presidential families have tried to shield younger children from intense political attention. But as Barron reached adulthood, public curiosity naturally increased. People began asking questions. Would he become more involved in politics? Would he follow in his father's footsteps? Or would he continue choosing a more private path? The truth is, there are very few public answers. Barron has made only a limited number of public appearances, and he has not established an official public political role. That lack of information has created a vacuum, one that social media often fills with speculation. Every time Barron appears at a public event, photos and videos quickly spread across the internet. Some focus on his height, others speculate about his future. Still others attempt to connect him to political strategies or campaign decisions. But separating fact from online rumor is essential. Many viral posts rely on anonymous sources or unverified claims. Responsible reporting, however, distinguishes between confirmed events and speculation. That's an important difference, not only for accuracy, but also for maintaining public trust. Regardless of political opinions, public figures often become the subject of narratives that move much faster than verified information. Barron is no exception. Melania Trump has consistently emphasized privacy when it comes to her son. Throughout Donald Trump's political career, she has often indicated that protecting Barron's personal life has been one of her highest priorities. Supporters view this as an effort to give him as normal an upbringing as possible. Critics sometimes argue that such privacy fuels even more public curiosity. Both perspectives exist, but one fact remains clear. Barron himself has spoken very little publicly. That means many stories circulating online simply cannot be confirmed, and that's why careful reporting matters. When Melania Trump first became First Lady, many observers expected a traditional public schedule. Instead, she charted her own course. Rather than appearing at every political event, she frequently selected specific initiatives and limited her public appearances. Some viewed this as independence, others interpreted it as distance from Washington politics. Because Melania has rarely addressed these discussions directly, multiple interpretations continue to circulate. Since Donald Trump's return to office, attention has focused largely on the president's policy agenda and political decisions. Against that backdrop, Melania's lower public profile has become a story in itself. Every appearance receives significant media coverage. Every absence generates new headlines. That's a reminder of how public expectations can shape political narratives. Sometimes, what people don't see becomes just as newsworthy as what they do. Political supporters often argue that Melania prefers to stay focused on family and selected public initiatives rather than maintaining a constant media presence. Critics, meanwhile, interpret her limited schedule differently, suggesting it reflects broader political dynamics. At this stage, however, many of those interpretations remain opinions rather than established facts. Without direct confirmation from those involved, it's important to distinguish observation from speculation. That's one of the biggest challenges in today's fast-moving media environment. In today's political world, a single photo can spark thousands of headlines. A brief public appearance, a missed event, or even a moment caught on camera. Within minutes, social media users begin building their own explanations. Some call it strategy, others call it conflict. And before long, speculation can begin to overshadow confirmed facts. That's exactly why stories involving high-profile political families spread so quickly. Melania Trump has often attracted attention because of her reserved public style. Unlike many political spouses who frequently address reporters or appear at campaign events, Melania has generally chosen a quieter approach. For supporters, that reflects her preference for privacy and independence. For critics, it raises questions about her role in the administration. Both viewpoints exist in public debate. However, without direct statements or verified reporting, it's important not to treat assumptions as established facts. Political narratives are often shaped as much by perception as by documented events. Barron Trump has become another example of this phenomenon. Because he rarely gives interviews or comments publicly, nearly every new appearance generates intense online discussion. Some observers believe he could eventually become more active in politics. Others think he'll continue pursuing a private life away from Washington. At this point, neither outcome has been confirmed. The future remains entirely his own to decide. That uncertainty is one reason why speculation continues to grow. The broader media environment also plays an important role. Television coverage, online commentary, podcasts, short-form videos. Each platform often highlights different aspects of the same story. As those perspectives circulate, audiences may encounter dramatically different interpretations of identical events. That's why it's valuable to pause and ask a simple question. What has actually been confirmed? Separating verified information from opinion helps viewers form their own conclusions rather than relying on viral claims. So, what does all of this mean for Melania Trump, Barron Trump, and the broader Trump family's public image? In the next section, we'll look at how public perception evolves over time and why political families often remain under intense scrutiny long after the headlines fade. Public perception, media scrutiny, and the road ahead. For every presidential family, public perception is constantly evolving. Every appearance, every interview, every public decision, and sometimes every absence becomes part of a much larger conversation. The Trump family is no exception. Supporters often see Melania Trump's low-profile approach as a deliberate effort to protect her family's privacy and avoid unnecessary political drama. Critics, on the other hand, argue that such limited visibility invites more questions than answers. Both perspectives continue to shape the national conversation. One thing is certain: political families live under extraordinary public scrutiny. Actions that might go unnoticed in an ordinary household can become front-page news when they involve a president's family. That's why even routine decisions, such as attending an event, making a public statement, or choosing not to appear, can generate widespread discussion. In today's digital world, every moment is analyzed from multiple angles. And once a narrative begins circulating online, it can spread around the globe within hours. This highlights an important challenge for viewers. How do we separate verified reporting from speculation? One useful approach is to ask a few simple questions. Is the claim supported by credible reporting? Has anyone directly involved confirmed it? Are multiple reliable sources reporting the same information? If the answer is no, it's wise to treat the story with caution. In a fast-moving news cycle, taking a moment to verify facts can make all the difference. As for Melania and Barron Trump, many questions about their future remain unanswered. Will Melania continue maintaining a selective public role? Will Barron eventually step into public life, or will he choose a different path altogether? At this point, only time and their own decisions will provide those answers. Until then, much of the conversation will likely remain a mix of confirmed reporting, informed analysis, and public speculation. The story of Melania and Barron isn't just about two individuals. It's also about how modern politics, media, and public curiosity intersect. In our final section, we'll bring everything together and reflect on what this tells us about today's political landscape and why separating facts from narratives has never been more important. The bigger picture, beyond the headlines. When we step back from the daily headlines, a broader picture begins to emerge. The discussion surrounding Melania Trump and Barron Trump isn't just about one family. It's also a reflection of how modern politics and media operate. Public figures live in an environment where every decision can be interpreted in multiple ways. Sometimes silence becomes a headline, sometimes a single appearance dominates the news cycle, and sometimes speculation spreads faster than verified information. That's the reality of today's media landscape. Throughout history, presidential families have faced intense public attention. Some embraced the spotlight, others preferred a quieter role. There is no single blueprint for how a first family should navigate public life. Melania Trump's approach has generally leaned toward privacy and selective public engagement. Barron Trump, meanwhile, has remained largely out of political discussions, despite growing public curiosity as he has reached adulthood. Whether that changes in the future is something only time will reveal. One lesson viewers can take away is the importance of critical thinking. In an era of viral clips, trending hashtags, and nonstop commentary, it's easy for assumptions to become accepted as facts. That's why it's valuable to pause before drawing conclusions, ask where the information comes from, consider whether it has been independently verified, and remember that not every online claim reflects reality. Healthy skepticism is one of the most important tools for understanding today's political environment. As the political landscape continues to evolve, Melania Trump and Barron Trump will likely remain subjects of public interest. Every future appearance or absence may generate another wave of discussion, but ultimately, their public roles will be defined not by online speculation, but by the choices they make and the actions they take. For now, many questions remain unanswered, and that's part of what keeps this story in the public conversation. So, what do you think? Has Melania Trump's low-profile approach been a deliberate strategy from the beginning, or is it simply a personal preference? Do you think Barron Trump will eventually take on a larger public role, or will he continue to stay out of the political spotlight? Share your thoughts in the comments below, but remember to keep the discussion respectful and focused on verified information. If you enjoyed this balanced analysis and want more in-depth coverage of politics, current events, and the stories behind the headlines, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.